Hi guys, get ready with me to go visit Luigi Mangione in court. This man has become a household name for the past 3 months. It's engaging my generation in politics. Well, sort of. At least not for the right reasons. When I first heard about the shooting on December 4th of Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, and it was from a TikTok news company, immediately I knew this wasn't gonna end well, and I talked to my dad about it. Girls gotta go talk to her dad about politics. And I think he said it best whenever he was like, "We are fucked." And we now have access to the CCTV footage. I checked the comments on it and subthreads, only to see that nobody's like talking about how crazy this whole thing is. All I see are comments that are saying like, wait, low key? And like, have my children. Or like my personal favorite. And don't get me wrong, that CCTV footage was probably the best picture taken of him. And it became a theory that like, he's like an attractive man. I think this is where it introduced like the biggest problem. So guys, I'm using the Anastasia Beverly Hills concealer. I have to cover up these dark circles because I've been staying up watching edits of Luigi. So when they announced his arrest in Altoona, Pennsylvania on December 9th, I thought the uproar would die down. I thought that maybe the footage might have been just a bit exaggerated. It was not. It was confirmed that a cold-blooded suspected murderer was actually considered handsome. After the arrest, the mugshot started to circle the internet. Tell me why. For weeks, I could not get "Mama, I'm in love with a criminal" out of my head. Every TikTok, every reel, every X post was his face to that song. He's not even convicted yet. And it doesn't end there. The obsession continues when we see Etsy sellers making Valentine's Day cards with his face on them and t-shirts with quotes from his manifesto saying "delay, deny, depose," acting like half of that audience has actually read the manifesto. It's just crazy to me how we as a society have been absolutely enamored with this man. It really just makes me ask, are we obsessing over the wrong thing? Alright, here's the backstory. So it's not a secret that these two dudes are intelligent. Coming from similar backgrounds, they eventually crossed very unfortunate paths. Luigi Mangione, before allegedly shooting Brian Thompson, was a top-notch dude. Valedictorian of his high school back in Baltimore, super smart in math, which got him on the path to an Ivy League. After graduating, he wanted more out of life. Or less, really. He had a dream as a child to live off of practically nothing because he had so much. So that made him go backpack across Asia, and then after traveling, he moved to Hawaii back in 2022 to make new friends and just get mental clarity. While he was surfing, though, he was left with like a serious back injury. This injury caused him to lose motivation and have a bad case of brain fog, leaving him really depressed. He reached out to a journalist named Gwinder Bohal to share his ideologies while relating to many of his pieces. And Luigi had brought up the idea that he was stunned at the rise of NPCs in Asia. He stated that they were like being controlled to what to do and what to say. He carries on about how America will soon be like this if we don't change that. And then we get to know Brian Thompson, also was valedictorian of his high school back in Iowa. He then went to the University of Iowa and became valedictorian again. He got his degree in business and administration and accounting, and then he went on to work for United Healthcare for about 20 years, climbing the corporate ladder, and then became CEO back in April of 2021. And after he assumed that role, their revenue numbers were up from 12 billion to 16 billion. He would talk at conferences about how he can make United make more money, never touched on the topic about how to help people. Thompson helped make United Healthcare one of the top 20 businesses in America. So I really wanted to know more about Luigi and his motive and understand the attraction behind him. And there's not really much to analyze about him since the arrest, only because they only released one statement. So I decided to dive deep into his manifesto. They found a backpack, and when they investigated, found his alleged manifesto, which was about 2.5 pages really. He was referring to corporate American CEOs as parasites. He talks about how not having the space to go on about like his other various reasons. The notebook had so much room in there, so what's up with that? And it was also extremely sloppy for somebody who went to an Ivy League. Not only was it not legible, it was just rambling on about nothing really. There was no structure, there was no supporting evidence. He even rambles on saying that he's not qualified enough to be discussing this. So like, what's the point? But what was understood from his main points was life expectancy hadn't gone up, and United Healthcare market cap has, highlighting the fact that this is just a business and not a helping hand. His second point was talking about how there is a power game at play, and we were just caught in the crossfire of it all. As he states, corporate America has gotten too powerful. Unfortunately, this has been a fact for the last 4 decades, from housing to food to jobs even. But honestly, reading all of this, I was just like, what is a manifesto? It's basically a written statement declaring publicly the intentions, the motives, or views of its issuer. And typically, they use them to push their ideologies and agenda for reformation. They're also pretty long, probably about 200 pages, and the instigators will post the manifestos on social media or websites for a wider outreach. The psychological reasoning behind all of this is that they have like this God complex, thinking that they're better than everyone else and pushing their ideas and agenda to show how great and how smart I am. But every time they seem to miss the mark, ensuing violence and instead of change. But besides the length, he does follow the common manifesto structure when he addresses the CEOs as parasites, assuming as much as we need to exterminate them. Most of these manifestos have a villain or a discriminatory idea, whether it's like a race or a group of people. Mangione follows it by stating they had it coming. This statement was still on par with being threatening and angry. Another thing that I noticed is Mangione's statement about being the first to face it all with such brutal honesty. And this may be true, however, that God complex mentality plays a huge part. Stating this pushes the idea that he has hierarchy over us, like we should be thanking him for this murder. So now that we know who he is and his motive, talk about what exactly is it that we're so obsessed with. Initially, when I heard about the case, I was like, oh yeah, we care because it's a huge CEO who's gunned down to the street. No, actually, we care a bit too much about something else. Most Americans have a pure hatred and a lack of sympathy for Brian Thompson, according to a survey in place asking if Americans agree or disagree with the assassination. Who we did show sympathy to was this fine man on the CCTV footage that allegedly did it. And it got worse when they saw who they arrested. So I created a fake TikTok page to get a raw feed of Luigi. And to my surprise, instead of like court updates, I was just getting edits, straight up edits. And what I saw, it was just insane. Like they got access to his old Tinder page and pictures of him and his ex-girlfriend. This group of people started to show up to his court hearings to support their man. So what is this phenomenon called? It's called a parasocial relationship. It's the idea of someone knowing someone, whether fictional or not, on a deep emotional level. This relationship can be physical as well, notably now more due to the rise of like social media, but the two people that coined this term were Donald Horton and Richard Wolin. They found out about this in about 1956 when they saw the uproar of this one fictional character in this TV show. The viewers have convinced themselves they understand these personas like they assess their friends and family, especially their motives. When a character or persona shows any sort of vulnerability, the audience gains like an affiliation with them without even realizing it. In this article, they dove into a case about this terrorist organization that used this to their advantage. The organization fed off of sympathy, gained support and funding. Their lifeline, again, like with the manifestos, is social media, whether it be content like stories from their life or like public statements. On a normal basis, they use the narrative like they are correct and their opinions are facts. They don't really have that much evidence backing it up though. Luigi's lawyers are seemingly taking advantage of this support, using it to fuel their narrative. They launched a website directing the fan base, honestly, it's not even supporters, it's just a fan base, to a central area to find current relevant information about the case. They even directed supporters where to send gifts and books and letters to him. And I don't know if they realize how this metastasized, with supporters making t-shirts now, and scarves, and sweaters, and even like the Valentine's Day cards I told you about. They have his face all over it, and have like words all over that say "Free Luigi." And look at this set of nails, bro. Like, this is just insane. And I don't know if they've seen the TikTok edits like I've seen the TikTok edits. They're just pleading for Mangione to have their kids. And one of the TikToks said, "Until the bed breaks." And it's just like, it's honestly just really disturbing at this point. And like I said, I am so tired of Mama, I'm in love with a criminal. I'm gonna play it right now, because if I have to listen to it, so do you. But Mama, I'm in love with a criminal. In the past 2 weeks, pro-Mangione accounts have now been censored. They've sent users over to the Give Sign Go page to discuss what's happening like freely. His lawyers have addressed in their public statements how they and he were very grateful for all the support shown. I don't think that these are supporters of his cause. Just a few weeks ago, Mangione himself released a statement asking women to only send about no more than 5 photos of themselves. Take, for example, this news reporter, like, just literally drooling over him whenever his face was released. Like, are we reporting on the charges, or are we reporting on his abs? Ow! It has gotten so out of hand that they need a select jury to handle the case. Like, he's labeled as a public figure on Google. And with that, the courts are afraid that there will be like a jury nullification. And according to Northeastern legal expert Daniel Medwed, he said it'd be quite difficult to find 12 people where at least some of them are not going to be open to what he did. We have food! We have food, y'all. We have a treasure island from Sushi Hana. Alright, so what did we learn from all of this? Obviously, I knew that this topic of interest would be difficult, but nonetheless extremely important due to the resurrection of TikTok. With that, just so we all know, the case is still ongoing. The first trial has already happened on February 21st. He was shackled at hands and feet with a bulletproof vest. We are waiting on the second and third trial to get more information and evidence. But as a society, how do we stop this cycle of a parasocial relationship? Well, I'm gonna hold your hand and say this and just give you the hard truth. Luigi doesn't know you, okay? He has so many other important things to worry about right now than picking a wife. And we just need to remember that what is true and what is not. But looking back on everything, killing one CEO does not fix a broken system. The problem specifically within the healthcare system is far more embedded and ingrained. This act that Mangione committed, or allegedly committed, will have a ripple effect and potentially opening up the door to more assassinations. And since they started censorship on pro-Luigi pages with the manifestos, we are seeing more retaliation from the public with lack of empathy. Ow! Put United out of the equation for just 1 second. There's a man dead on the streets of New York, shot 3 times in the back, and seeing that post has just made us completely numb due to social media. We just don't understand how truly impactful things are. Like, social media just makes things trends where they're here for a second and we can send it to our friend and go like, damn, that's crazy. And then maybe post a political piece about it and then just forget about it completely because it just, meh. It's just a trend. It doesn't impact us. So at the end of the day, all I can really say is just educate yourself. Keep these like truly impactful things from being trends and just discuss them. Just take yourself out of that initial emotion to figure out other solutions as a society, how we can stand against corrupt corporations rather than having a lone wolf fighting our battles. All right, guys. This is the finished look. I think I'm definitely gonna grab the attention of Luigi on the benches. Tune in next week for the next secondary trial. I will see y'all then. Bye. Sponsored by Sushi Hana.